as promised, we have an exciting conclusion to our Clone Wars Rebel Force Radio reunion. As Jim calls it, the victory lap of Star Wars The Clone Wars as it celebrates its final season proper. No more of these unceremonious, oh, this is good enough. We got a proper ending to the Clone Wars. And great to have joining us once again, Obi-Wan himself, Mr. James Arnold Taylor. Hello, James.
Hello there.
Well, great to see you again. And now that the whole season has officially wrapped, got to start off with, what are your thoughts on those last 4 episodes?
Cinematic and amazing and fun and wow. I guess those are my words. Those are the words that come to mind. I always will say more Obi-Wan, but that's me. Right. No, it was just the right amount of Obi-Wan. I really do feel it was great because there was some really fantastic moments that I got to voice in there, and I was honored to be a part of it.
Well, I mean, what a lot of folks don't know is that for you guys, you get to experience this show and got to experience this show as fans as well as cast members because of the incredible production time that it takes. Oftentimes you've got a great memory, James, but I'm sure you don't remember every line and things. A lot of things can happen in editing,
Tell me the
right?
episode.
Every line,
every line.
But
no.
But still, and like you say, there wasn't a lot of Obi-Wan, but I think that can be forgiven because we know what Obi-Wan was doing during these 4 episodes, which is a big difference.
Yeah. I'm kind of waiting for somebody to now make like a split screen like we are here, and putting in what's going on during the timeline. I'm sure somebody is working on that somewhere right now. A Star Wars fan is frantically piecing together the timelines of those. Yeah.
The ultimate.
It's not already out there. I saw something online that seemed similar in description to what you're talking about right now. I just saw it this morning, but I didn't actually watch the video, so I don't know if it's precisely what you're talking about, but I think it's already out there.
Wow. Amazing. That's Star Wars fans for you.
Star Wars fans during lockdown for you.
That's right.
We're much more efficient.
Well, I was gonna say, if you think that we had a lot of time on our hands before all this,
that's right.
Nothing more dangerous than a Star Wars fan with nothing to do.
And a big computer.
Right, exactly. Well, anyway, now, James, we did get a chance to catch up with you a few weeks ago. Granted, it was before the final episodes aired, but there was someone, a big someone of the Clone Wars cast that we weren't able to catch up with. And I think you're here to help right that wrong, correct?
That's right, yes. The special connection with Obi-Wan and Padme is, Anakin doesn't like it, but I have a call there that I can put in on the holocron and see if she's ever willing to talk to people. And of course, she was willing to talk to Rebel Force Radio. So, yes.
And we got her.
Standing by.
There she is, Catherine Tabor, the voice of Padme.
I'm totally stealing hello there. I'm saying it all the time. It's just too good. Okay, well, first of all, I'm afraid you oversold me just a little bit there as like special guest.
What?
Stop.
Oh, come on.
I definitely appreciate it.
This is. I mean, this is a big deal to Star Wars fans. It's a huge deal to Jimmy and myself because this show, Star Wars: The Clone Wars, is really what helped us establish our brand as Star Wars podcasters. It was a real match made in heaven, and there was a need for outreach to Star Wars fans, and Star Wars fans needed content, and it worked out great. And it still is by far the nicest group of people that have ever been cast in the same TV show or movie. We used to joke with Dave Filoni and say, you have like some kind of rule that you can only hire the nicest people for this show.
We were all under non-disclosures and decency, writers. And now that the show is over, I mean,
a whole new side.
It's all coming out.
Oh, no.
This will be interesting, I think.
Not really.
I have a bad feeling about this.
But wait, you guys were saying that you knew what Obi-Wan was doing during those last 4 episodes. What was happening?
Revenge of the Sith.
Was it bad?
Revenge of the Sith.
Some of it was tough. Some of it was tough, yeah.
I know. I'm kidding.
Oh, you're okay. All right. Woof. I was getting scared there. I really was.
That's what I'm saying. What was going on with Padme? Is everything okay?
She's being force choked on a lava planet.
Well, I got a crazy idea. So, James, you were saying that you've got the holocron line that goes directly to Padme, and there was on again and off again the idea in the lead up to Revenge of the Sith. And there were rumors that it was going to be a love triangle. Now, having stepped inside these characters, did that ever occur to you, or were you ever aware of that as an angle for Padme and Obi-Wan?
I've never been able to make that connection with the two of them. I've always seen them probably very similar, like Kat and I, as brother and sister, and kind of the big brother that isn't really certain the big sister is paying as good attention as she should, I think. I never felt like Obi-Wan really fully trusted her in that because she's a politician. I don't know, Kat, what is your thought on that?
Yeah, I mean, I can see in a way how people kind of want to go there sometimes too, because it makes it even saucier and more fun. But no, I don't think that existed in their relationship. I mean, and I think that's kind of one of the cool things too. I think their relationship is that they really are super close. They are an example of the ability to actually have a friend that is the opposite sex and have a really, really close relationship with them and really want the best for them and also know them really well. There definitely, I feel like, is more underlying communication that goes on between them. So I do feel like he probably really did have like a secret line that he could call her. I don't think it was romantic. And it is really interesting, James, that you said that, because it is very close to our actual relationship in real life. I mean, I honestly call him my best friend all the time, unless I'm mad at him or something. No, but he's one of those people, like I could call for anything and he would be there. And I feel like that's the way that Obi-Wan and Padme are.
Well, that's
I'm getting another call. I'm sorry.
I often call it
Matt. Oh, Matt, how's it going, man?
I often call it
on the iPhone.
I call it the flat tire test. You've got a good friend if you could call him up at 12:30 a.m. and say, "I just had a flat tire. Can you come and pick me up?" And that's how you know. You have a good friend.
I will say even more than that. When we got stranded in Chicago last year for Celebration, which was amazing, but then it was over and then everyone was snowed in. I was having a really hard time. I actually had a great flight and I was like, haha, see you later, suckers. And then my flight, something happened and everybody else was getting out. This one was literally ready to book a first class flight for me out of his own pocket to get me home. It didn't end up having to happen, thankfully, but that's the kind of friend that he is to me. I mean, he is my brother. So, and I love his wife and daughter so much. When we go to dinner and stuff, actually his daughter and I get along really well. We're both kind of girly. So we're always like chatting, looking, like we'll go shopping and we're looking at the jewelry and I call myself very old.
Like having two daughters.
Now was Clone Wars the first project that the two of you had worked together on?
Yeah, absolutely was. Yeah, and I remember instantly having a connection with Kat, and I don't know exactly if it was Star Wars, although I think there was that, but there was just something where it's like, on a human being level, and I thank you, by the way, for all the very kind things you're saying there, but she's just a genuine soul, and she's also one of the finest actors I've ever got to work with. She really loves her craft and knows it, and I think that was the connection as well, as once we got in the studio together, it was like, oh, okay, we all are joking and having fun, but boom, she's on that mic, she's real serious about it and wants to get it right. And so I think that was really, the two of us have these characters that are so known outside of us, and we have to deal with that in many ways. I don't mean all that to sound negative, but it's just, there's people that like those on-camera people and then that have played them in the films, and then there's people like us, and there's this balance. So I think we have a kinship in that as well, of dealing with those characters. Of course, Matt has that as well, but it's really what brings the three of us as a real tight-knit group, because I do see Matt as a little brother in that too.
Yeah.
As far as Jason was talking about how you guys are really we consider you the nicest group of actors in the world, but you can get the nicest people together in a room and the chemistry just won't be there. But luckily you guys had instant and very recognizable chemistry with each other. So I'm going to start with you, Kat. I want, if you can, conjure up your favorite James Arnold Taylor memory from a studio recording session for Clone Wars. Do you have anything in particular that jumps out?
From studio recording, that one's hard. I mean, that one's hard only because we were in the studio so much, and I have beautiful Naboo sunlight coming through.
Yes, you do.
I feel like my favorite stuff in the studio with James, interestingly enough, was watching him and Matt work together. Being such a Star Wars fan myself and loving these characters so much, anytime when there were scenes where the banter between them was just that classic Star Wars that's like sarcastic and funny, but there's the love underneath it. It was really that, and again, what James is saying too, they had already worked on it a little tiny bit before I came in, so I felt a little bit like newer, not too much, but just to walk in and watch these people that were so talented and so gracious. But when James and Matt are being Obi-Wan and Anakin, I feel like they embody them. And, I know that there's been video and stuff of our recording, but to actually see it live and to feel the essence of these characters is just the coolest thing.
How about you, Jat? Any Kat memories from her cutting up in the studio or slipping on a banana peel and anything wacky, and then a cream pie fight broke out? And any fond memories?
Her note there is a great one. I would say that I really truly was thinking this before as well, that watching her and Matt work together as Anakin and Padme was always just so fun to step back and watch that. And so we both had those moments because of that, where Obi-Wan and Anakin would have a little banter, and then Padme and Anakin would have that, and so we'd all get to kind of watch that. That was always wonderful. But I will say this, the first recording session at LA Studios for this, which then became the film, Kat was not there that day. And Andrea Romano, who was voice directing us on that, said, okay, we're going to play you a little of Catherine Tabor, who's playing the role of Padme. And they played her voice come through, and I'm getting chills thinking about it. And she said, Annie, and the whole room went, whoa, like the room like exploded. and everybody was like, whoa, I can't wait to get to work with her. And it was just, she's actually very funny, sarcastic, kind of dry. Like she waits for the moments, and she won't say a lot in a session, but once that place to drop a bomb in, she will. And so those are some of my more fond moments of working with Kat in the studio, where it would just be like there's that dead silence, and then she'd go, well, good one, Anakin, or something, some type of quip that just was perfectly timed. See, I don't have the same wit as her.
Did you guys all go crazy because she said Annie? Wasn't that an ad lib, if I remember correctly?
Yes.
You threw that in there just because you knew the nature of the character so well. You knew how she would address Anakin.
Yeah, I tend, as an actress, when I get, and so what they were playing then was from my original audition, I tend, when I have, material, to try to figure out how to make it as alive and flesh it out as much as possible. And I don't come from a voiceover background. In fact, this was my first big voiceover job. I had done Knights of the Old Republic video game, but it was my first big animation project. And so I just approached it as an actress, and like, what makes these words more alive? And, she loves this guy. Like, she would say his name, like when you're mad at someone and you say their name, or when you are kind of flirting with someone, or you really like them and you say their name, it makes your whole sentence different.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm sure me and Jat grew up in a similar circumstance where we were called, Jimmy, every once in a while. But when we got in big trouble, we were called James.
James.
Yeah. Yes. So, I mean, at least that's how it was for me. Jad, you call yourself, have you always gone by James? Have you ever gone by Jim or Jimmy?
There is a story to that. I don't know if I've ever shared it with you guys. So I was Jamie growing up, Jamey, which is a very different spelling. A little more masculine spelling, Jamey. And I was Jamie to my family for years until a certain TV show called The Bionic Woman came out. And my brother's name is Steve. So it was Steve and Jamie. So Jamie Summers.
Right.
I used to get, in third grade, I started getting called the Bionic Woman. People were teasing me, calling me the Bionic Woman. Jamie Summers, making fun of me. And I went, that's it. That's it. I'm changing my name to my real name, James. I will now be known as James Taylor, not knowing that I was going to be plagued with James Taylor jokes the rest of my life.
A little fire and rain.
So I wish I stuck with Jamie, quite frankly. But so that's where Jat kind of came through. J-A-T. It's easier.
That's a good one.
So I've never asked this question, but I don't even know if it would make sense because can't remember what his voice sounds like. But can you do a James Taylor impersonation?
Yeah, I used to in my stand-up act. I used to, but I mean, he doesn't. His speaking voice is. I'd have to sing everything. So
hilarious. So, Kat, you did mention that Clone Wars was your first voice acting gig, on a regular basis, but you definitely have a lot of experience in front of the camera. And I have to ask you about the picture I keep seeing of you on social media. You're splattered in blood. What's up with that?
Yeah, that's a film I did called Haven's End that actually is being distributed this fall, so I'm super excited. It's been to festivals, and we won some awards and all that kind of stuff. But that's how I started, was on camera, and I've been super grateful to get to do the voice work because that's brought me into the genres that I really like, which are more sort of sci-fi. And so that was what was really cool about this film. And it's a little film, but we're really proud of the way that it came out and came together, and I love the story. And I got to do stunts, and it's got sort of supernatural aspects to it. So it really was so exciting for me as an actress to get to do this. I had never done stunts before, and I'd always thought, oh well, I want to do them, and now I want to do them more. I mean, I want like a stunt person still for like the legit falling off building stuff, but like the fighting and like the knifing and all that stuff, it was awesome. So it's coming out this fall.
So just like a day at the Clone Wars set.
What's it? So it's a end of the world. I mean, it's an end of the world apocalyptic kind of situation.
It's like what we're going through now, then.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's weird. Life imitates art.
So that's going to be available on demand. How are we going to be able to see this?
All of the different outlets it will be at. Yeah, it's being distributed by a company called Mill Creek. So look for that this fall.
We will. I just want to see you splattered in blood.
And it's not my blood. So.
Oh, thank God.
Anakin's.
So Kat, when you coming off of a project where you're on camera, is it difficult going back and forth between on-screen work and voiceover work? Do you get a sense of relief in some ways when you know that you're going in to do voiceover work, or is it the opposite way? What comes more naturally to you, and what are you most comfortable with?
I would say the on-camera almost comes more naturally to me. And when I first really started doing the voiceover thing, one of the biggest things I had to get used to was not moving as much as I normally would in front of the microphone and knocking into things. I mean, knocking into like the podium that's holding your script is a specialty of mine. And people like Corey Burton can sit in a chair and be Zero the Hutt and then Cad Bane and all these crazy things without moving his body. Whereas I came from on camera, so I still, even now, you can see I'm moving my hands. But the cool thing about just getting to work on such great projects and material, whether I'm doing an audiobook or an on-camera thing or an animated series, is that when the material is really good and you get to play a character that you really love and you can kind of dig deep into them, that it's kind of the same thing for me. And people think like, oh, well, look at my Naboo sunlight.
Yeah, it's very effective.
People always talk about people going to work in their pajamas for voiceover, and I gotta say, it just does not happen. Like, unless that's really like your thing and like your personality. No,
I'm not wearing pants right now. I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm wearing pants right now, but I mean, if we're in the studio, normally we have pants on. Or James wears a skirt, actually, usually.
Kilt. It's a kilt. I like to call it a kilt. Thank you. Going back to my Scottish roots. Yes, thank you.
Exactly. But I think like once you're a working professional voiceover actor, and obviously things are changing, we're doing more stuff at home, and no one's wearing pants. People probably all wear pajamas. But if there's a video element, or even you're seeing other people, it's just like the rest of life. Like if you want to be successful and be perceived as successful and taken seriously, you just don't go to work in your pajamas. Again, unless that's your shtick.
No, to that note, I find that I have to, no matter what, especially nowadays, everything is being done with a video conference in addition to our voiceover when we patch in. But before that, for 26 years before that, I never had video on me. But I always would make sure I was dressed appropriately because you just feel the way that you can do the job that way. So Kat's absolutely accurate in that.
I'm going to tell you too, this like thing that I think is hysterical about myself. I'm just outing myself in my idiocy. I put perfume on for Zoom and Skype meetings.
Oh, that's lovely.
And I know that's insane, but it's like wearing, like shoes, or like I do my hair in Leia buns for the Leia audition. Like, I don't know, somehow like what James said, like the way that you feel.
Uh-huh. If that's crazy, Kat, lock me up, because I've been teleconferencing in for the day job for the last 8 weeks, and I get up, shower, obviously get dressed, and I put on cologne. And I thought about that last week. I'm like, why am I putting cologne on? Well, I enjoy it. Sitting in my...
I could smell the Jakar coming off of you all the way from here. Or is that Old Spice?
Drakkar Noir. Sounds like mean stepdad. That's what it smells like.
Hey, can't refresh my memory. Didn't you actually go to a fountain and wish on a penny that you would get the Clone Wars gig? The very first?
I didn't go to a fountain, but yes, I did wish on a penny. Like, so... Being from the South, maybe being a lunatic, I do things like if I see a penny, I always pick it up. And so right around the time of the audition, I had found a penny, and I was big into just sort of wishing. And so, and you have to throw it over your shoulder behind you. That's the trick. And you want it to like actually land somewhere where it doesn't like roll back out. You want it to like disappear into a bush or something, so that like it has some time to do its magic. But actually it's funny because I did that, and I also prayed, literally. And I was like, God, if I get this part, I promise to always be grateful and always work hard. And I really said that. And there honestly have been 1 or 2 times throughout the last 11 years or whatever, where, if I was ever annoyed by something, I was like, you better shut it, princess, because you are lucky. And we were really lucky to be a part of this.
That sounds great. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. But you have to be careful when you're making those wishes that you're not maybe on board a public transit train or something. You throw that over your shoulder. You pick off the guy sitting right behind you. Yeah.
Good news and bad news on that. I got the part, but the guy 3 rows behind me ended up.
Yeah.
Hey, I think it's got risk. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Well, I'm glad you got the role. And when you make a when you make a promise to the big guy like that, you have to follow through.
Absolutely.
So it's probably something that has really motivated you and energized your whole career since you landed that gig.
100%. And also that was one of the things I think that brought James and I together, is that we're both believers. So that definitely immediately. And I think that, I do think that there's a part of that gives you a sense of really trying to remember to be grateful. And I know that a lot of people do that too, but it adds a layer of that where when you're not being grateful, you really,
It's an accountability For sure. Yeah, absolutely.
And oh my God, and are those not some of the strongest messages from Star Wars?
Yeah.
Star Wars to me says, trust your spirituality, be faithful, and the galaxy will open itself up to you. I really take that message out of Star Wars, especially the original trilogy.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And just even things like, treating, treating others as you would want to be treated and with love as sort of like the golden rule, or one of the two golden rules, and just that's what I think too, like the characters that we really love, the characters that we can get behind, unless you really just like the bad guys. I mean, that's what they do. It's about loyalty and friendship, and when we're really disappointed in people like Landau or something, it's because they've betrayed their friends, which is terrible.
Yeah, and that seems to be kind of an underlying theme of this entire conversation is the strength of friendship and loyalty and honesty with each other, and that's and trust. And you see that kind of dynamic going on amongst the characters in the Clone Wars and both and behind the scenes even with you guys, and so I really like that. And it to me is a bold demonstration of why you guys do what you do so well.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. I will just say to that point too, that note that there are so many Star Wars fans that are people of faith. And I think that is what draws them to it, is the story of something stronger than us, outside of us, this force or what have you. And I think that it's wonderful, the community that embraces it, so easily embraces our faith, is ones that embrace this world of Star Wars. So I find an interweaving throughout my daily life dealing with people and talking to people is just like they kind of go hand in hand there, and I love that about it. And so, and it certainly is what, as Kat said, it's certainly what has brought us together. We're going to be actually working on a podcast together here soon enough, where we talk a little bit about our faith and talk about our journeys as actors and working in Hollywood in a world that is, sometimes feels without it. So that's something we're working on soon too. That's a little sneak peek. That hasn't been given out anywhere.
No, that's that's really great. Kat, when we had James on a couple weeks ago, we don't want to make this the COVID cast. We think these things are evergreen, but I always like to take people that we have on that we find and we know our listeners find particularly inspirational, and ask and just kind of put the question out there: how are you coping through all of this? And do you have any advice for people that might be feeling extra lonely, isolated, bored, stuck, what have you?
Yeah, it's funny. James knows this about me. I'm an introvert, in general. I am not the kind of person who's like, I got to go out every night. So in the beginning, it really wasn't that difficult for me. It's just me and my dog right now. And my family is 3 hours away, but I really don't get to see them, or I didn't get to see them at the beginning anyway. But at first it was okay. It's just kind of business as usual. And it's like, oh, I can get stuff done. And we're all like, we'll just have all this time to get these projects done. Then I started realizing people weren't getting things done, and we were feeling guilty about that. So one of the first things I think is really just to give yourself a break and to recognize that the time off that you have right now is not the same as just getting a nice long weekend. There's added elements of fear and stress and loneliness. And I have some friends that are not introverts. They're complete extroverts. They love being around people. And I really feel for them, because it's been very hard for those that are single and by themselves to be by themselves. And that's not a character flaw. It's just a personality. And so, I say to those people, oh gosh, I feel for you. And, just remember to keep reaching out to your friends and your family over, social media and Skype and Zoom. But then the other thing, I think now is a time we can all kind of settle into it and go, okay, it's going to end. We've made it this far. What do I want to take away from this? And I think for everyone, sitting down with yourself and going, what's the one thing or maybe two things that I would like to be better at when this is over? And don't make it something like dramatic, like I'm going to completely, remodel my whole basement myself and do all the woodworking. Just like, do I want to be better? Do I want to be a better friend? Do I want to be better at answering emails and texts from people? and find something that's a personal goal that would make you not only feel stronger and better within yourself, but might make the world around you a little bit better, and decide to work on that. So when we emerge from the cocoon, that you've grown a little bit. I just made a butterfly metaphor, which, by the way, James knows is like so my thing. But the fact that I was accidental, I'm like, yes.
Well, that was beautiful, and your message of giving back and doing for others has been certainly with you from the beginning of our experience, interviewing you over the years. And one of the very first things that we did together was there was a campaign for soldiers. We were donating video games and all kinds of things. Are you still active in that aspect of things and helping the folks overseas and, well, even those in our own borders?
I still have the website up, and so I still will fill occasional requests from overseas. It just sort of tapered off to the large extent when we pulled a lot of troops out, and a lot of them are home. And I've never really done anything stateside because the whole idea was for people who were having a really hard time getting things.
Right.
At the time we started, it was Iraq and Afghanistan. And so I will still do things if I get a request. And so I'm still open to donations if anyone ever wants to. But one of the things that started happening with donations is that people would be like, hey, I've got some games for you. And they were like, I'm trying to think of a really old game, like Atari, whatever. But that's
got a ColecoVision for you.
Yeah, that's retro and cool. No, they were like, their PlayStation, whatever the first one was. And no one, even the soldiers in the middle of the desert, have that system anymore.
Right.
And I have like all this stuff with nothing to do with it. But I'm open to donations if people have new stuff that they ever want to get rid of, especially if companies have a bunch of the same title. I can always find people to send stuff to. And then like I said, I take requests, and usually around the holidays, I try to get a couple things out to a couple different units. So, but thank you guys.
What's the website?
It's gamesforsoldiers.com, and it has not been updated. Like, it's embarrassingly old, so.
Hey, if it works, but you all as a cast did some work for the USO, is that right?
Yeah, I actually had a connection with the USO through my buddy Gary Sinise and some other actors in Hollywood that had done some tours with him, Kelsey Grammer and John Voight and such. And so I asked Gary if I could do a USO tour because I had created this show that ended up being the thing we did at Star Wars Weekends, Obi-Wan and Beyond, and talking to myself that I did. And so I originally created it to do a USO tour with it. And so I got to do a couple of USO tours in Japan and such. But then, thankfully, they let us do one out here at Miramar, and the whole cast came out. We did some screenings. We brought some episodes that hadn't been seen. This was back when the show was on in its first run, and we did some Q&A, and just great because it was really awesome for Kat to be a part of that too, knowing her military background of just, being an Army brat and having such a love for helping the troops and stuff. It was really special and wonderful. But it was Dave Filoni, Matt, Tom, Dee, Ashley, myself, Kat. We had a great time. We just had a great time. And the funny thing is that was one of the last things we did before the show got canceled. The show got canceled, I want to say, like within the month after we did that event. So it was one of our last big hurrahs as a cast.
It was really cool. Everything about that was cool for me. Like, even just driving in, like you felt like, I don't know why, but for some reason, like there was this long road that led to the base, and I felt like I was in Top Gun, and really, really excited to be there and to get to do something because it was for the families, of parents that were deployed. And so just to get to do something to say thank you. And James was our host and MC, and there's a video on YouTube kind of that James kind of like almost like a little documentary of what we did that you can actually see. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We'll link to that.
And we had a great time, and we got these really cool jackets like that you can. People come in, they'll see it in my office, and they'll be like, "Can I get one of those?" And I'll be like, "No, you can't."
Yeah, it's an awesome jacket. I look like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man in mine because it's really big.
They're big, but they have our characters' names on them. I mean,
it's really awesome, and an American flag on them and stuff. And then we got to go on the in all these jets and these planes and such, and man, it was very cool.
That is awesome. Now, I would be remiss, Kat, if we didn't talk about someone else that you have a tremendous amount of chemistry with, and that is Mr. Matt Lanter, Anakin Skywalker. And something that when we've talked to Matt over the years, that's so interesting about his situation is that his character for the Clone Wars, while yes, there is a live action version of Anakin that he can look to, it's in such a different period of that character's life, and so he doesn't have quite the same anchor as you did with Padme and James had with Obi-Wan. But in a way, it was like you guys were sort of his anchor into that. How was it working with Matt and helping him find this version of Anakin Skywalker that he needed?
Yeah, I mean, it always sounds like we're just, gushing over each other, and I always feel like, oh gosh, this must sound so fake and annoying. But Matt is such an awesome guy, and I can't think of anyone better to play this character that, I love the character of Anakin, and not just because I play Padme, but I've sympathy for this character to understand why he becomes what he becomes, and it's for love. It's love turned to the dark side, but it's not because he's just trying to be all powerful for himself or any of these other terrible sort of characteristics. So in order to really have this character mean what it means, you had to have someone who was inherently good and likable, and that is Matt. And he also has that just swashbuckling, like, magnetism and handsomeness. And a lot of times when you have that, you really don't have the authentic other good guy thing. So he's just a rare combination of, the best qualities, both inner and outer.
He's handsome inside and outside. That's for sure. James,
and Matt's also a believer, which I think again was a funny thing that the three of us,
the Trinity, the trio.
Yeah. Yes, it's good to have things in common.
Yeah,
that's awesome, James. I mean, you also shared a lot of on mic time with Matt, and he was at I don't want to say a disadvantage. Maybe that's not the right term, but he was sort of reinventing a character in a sense at the certainly at the direction of George Lucas and Dave Filoni and all the writers, whereas you guys were more of a continuation of what we saw on screen.
Yeah, that's a really interesting note. I don't know if anybody's ever really kind of put it that way before. I think that's an important note because in the Clone Wars, Obi-Wan had to be Obi-Wan, Padme had to be Padme, but Anakin had to be different,
Yeah.
I pause and say that, and that's not coming down on any one way or other of that character before that. He had to be different because for this length of time, we have to see this version of him. And I think that's the beautiful thing that George Lucas got to do with the Clone Wars that he didn't get to do with any of the films. He got to take this character that is truly the chosen one throughout. For my money, although Luke Skywalker is the greatest movie hero of all time, Anakin Skywalker is the most tortured. And he is this one character that really has to be all things. Good, bad, indifferent. Anakin's the only one that can get away with when I'm stuck and I don't know what to do, and then all of a sudden a lightsaber comes through somebody from behind, and he goes, "What?" And he can get away with that.
Yeah.
I mean, Obi-Wan can't get away with that. Padme can't get away with that. But Anakin can, and it really goes to what Kat was saying about Matt. And Matt really is the real deal. I mean, he's an amazing actor. I always say that I can't wait to watch this man's career just go through his whole life, because he's just a genuinely sweet, wonderful person that also happens to be a tremendous actor. It's really where I got blessed to work with people like Kat and Matt in that, hey, I made a rhyme. That they both are just so genuine in that. And that's really, I think, what made the Clone Wars so special. And of course, we can't forget Ashley in that as well. Ashley being an on-camera actress that brought in voiceover. And then, you surround all of them with Tom Kane and Corey Burton and Jim Cummings and Phil LaMarr and D. Bradley Baker, my goodness. And then myself being in there to fill in those spaces. And then you got Nika Futterman. And, it just all was a magic moment in time that we still get to share, which is really beautiful.
That is such a great roster of talent. And James, I know you're capable in this department, but I'm going to throw it over to Kat. I'd love to hear your Tom Kane impersonation. Tom Kane is the announcer. I want to hear Catherine Tabor, her take on Tom Kane. Here we go.
Okay.
All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1, action.
This week on the Clone Wars, Padmé Amidala has been traveling to Naboo to do some grocery shopping with her great friend, Master Jedi Obi-Wan Kenobi. Okay.
That must have been a season
I
4
Tom
episode.
I must really like you guys because I never do that kind of
No, I don't know how you guys. I can't get her to do that.
I don't.
Put her on the spot. We put her on the spot. She's just being gracious.
Yes.
And generous. Catherine, here's one that I've been asking pretty much everyone who has been through the all 7 seasons of the Clone Wars as part of the core cast. What are your favorite Padme episodes?
Oh, I mean, I really like so many different ones, but I got to say, like, just in the very early time with the Destroy Malevolence arc,
Yes.
there are some Padme Anakin moments, Padme Anakin Obi-Wan moments that feel, again, so classic Star Wars that I just love them. And I know I always say it too, but one of my other favorite non-Padme arcs is the Innocence of Ryloth with Numa. They're just so great. But you know, it's really hard at this point. I mean, there are so many great stories that have been told that it's just amazing. I still always like the one where we're underwater. I can't remember what it's called, but just because her little water aqua suit is really cute.
Well, did you get to keep the wardrobe and take it home with you?
I did. I plan to go scuba diving with that soon.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, I know James took some wardrobe from the Clone Wars because it's on display at Rancho Obi-Wan.
James
Yeah, that's
also
right.
had my hair pieces. I'm not sure why, but
Oh, you know, just when there's time for me.
Well,
I was just gonna ask Kat, would you, if the opportunity came about, would you like to visit Padme again?
yeah, I mean, I can't imagine anything that I would like more. And it's funny because, you know, each time something has ended, it hasn't been the end. So right now, it's hard to believe that it ever would be the end. I just, for instance, did E.K. Johnston's next book, which is coming out and it's announced, so I can say it now, called Queen's Peril, where I get to play Padme again at a different place in her life. Which is also funny because I also get to play Obi-Wan in a couple of little scenes.
So you're narrating the entire audiobook.
So just like I did with Queen Shadow, her first book, I narrate the entire audiobook. And there are characters that show up that I then, you know, I read as the characters. And, you know, you just try to do a really good job. And normally when you're narrating an audiobook, it's, you know, sort of daunting. But when you're friends with the people who play these characters, it's even more daunting. And I feel like doing James was probably the most daunting of all. I mean, the Chancellor is in the first one and a bunch of other characters. I had to play someone that Dee played, Dee Bradley Baker. But for some reason, I was like, wait a minute. I have to be James Arnold Taylor? How am I going to do that? So
It's an incredibly hard job, please. Nobody wants that responsibility.
Did you send her some notes afterwards, James? Like, you know,
yeah,
this was...
sure.
Did you get to say hello there?
no, I didn't. But I do say it other places and all the time now. Like I said, I'm stealing it, kind of. I can't help it. It's so good.
That has taken on a life of its own. I have a video that just happened to be going viral this last week of me answering people's questions. I have no idea why this particular video. I have tons of videos on my channel. This particular one is over 100,000 now. And
Wow.
and of course, it's the only video I didn't start with hello there.
Oh.
And so you look at the comments, there's hundreds of comments being like, he didn't start with hello there. Missed opportunity there. You're just like, God, give the guy a break, all right?
You know,
Well, I say it enough now for both of us too. So I can't help it, and I'm like, I'm stealing Obi-Wan's line, but Padme doesn't have a greeting that I can think of. You know, I can yell "For the Republic," but that's more of a salutation as you're leaving, really.
right. Hey,
What did she say?
Kat, we're going back and reviewing some of our old interviews that we've done in the past, and we have a little unfinished business with you, something that we have actually never done. And if you have time, we would love to ask you the Yoda questionnaire.
Okay.
All right. So these are
well.
I mean, you might think this is easy, but these are questions that were written by Jedi Master Yoda himself.
Okay.
And he emailed them to Jimmy Mack.
Yes,
Okay.
via the dark web.
Oh,
Jim, every once in a while, the spirit of Yoda just shows up in your room. That you think we might be able to conjure.
Let me try to
him up?
conjure him up a little bit.
You think
Where's
real
the
hard,
spirit
'cause
of
if he
Yoda?
knows-
Oh, look. There he is.
Oh, look at
There
that.
he is. He's come to visit us. Look at him floating around here. Ooh,
He's
the
evolved
spirit of Yoda.
from a blue glowy to a white glowy. Wow, that's
Pretty
amazing.
cool.
He even has a handle, so you can really.
Yeah, right. Wait a second. You're not supposed to see that. You're not supposed to see my hand. He's just
my hand
floating
My
here.
neck, guys.
Yeah,
Kind
we'll
of
just put him here.
like,
He's just kind of down here.
this is a high class production here.
Are you kidding me? Eat
The
your
things
heart
you can
out,
do with-
Industrial Light and Magic.
The things you can do with a green coffee mug. Ooh.
I love that.
Yeah, pretty neat, huh? So that's about as high tech as our special effects get.
I'm going to send Kat a green coffee mug of me, so every time she does a video thing, now she can put a little hologram of James
Yeah.
just
And I'll
floating.
say hello there.
Hello there. Hello there.
So as we said, these are questions that were put together by the great Jedi Master himself, and we're going to ask them to you now. Now,
Okay.
James is here, so if you got to call a lifeline, he's right there. But I don't suspect you will.
Okay.
So we're going to start with who or what is your favorite Star Wars character?
Well, that's kind of funny because it's actually Yoda.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are you
Correct
just
you are.
kissing up because Yoda wrote these questions?
No, it's actually Yoda.
Awesome. All right.
What do you love the most about Master Yoda?
That he is extremely wise, that he is extremely humble, and that he's patient in his teaching, which I think I love him because I wish that I had a Yoda.
We all wish
So-
we had it. We all need a Yoda, no matter how old we are, no matter how much we think we know. We always want that person in our life that knows a little bit more. That's a great answer.
The spirit of Yoda agrees.
James is
He's nodding his head.
too. I do. I think now that we've become even better friends over the years too, I would say that James is a little bit Yoda for me. He's a little bit Yoda.
And I'm a little bit Obi-Wan.
All right.
Well, that's very kind.
we are
And scene.
we're going to go to the now we're going to go a little bit to the dark side and ask you who or what is your least favorite Star Wars character? The one that
Gosh,
you don't
that's
care if you
really
ever saw
hard.
him again. They just irritate you every time you see him.
That is really hard. I feel, and I know I sound like I'm being a diplomatic politician, but I feel like I can come up with some value in just about all the characters, even the ones that I think other people don't like. Like I know people don't like Jar Jar. I love Jar Jar. And
Yeah.
little kids like Jar Jar. My parents like Jar Jar. So like I've always felt like everyone has something for another. I guess I can't even remember right now what movie it's in, but like the guy that's got the pig nose and he's
That's
kind
what
of
I was going to say.
So-
Dr. Evazan.
I don't
No.
know what his name is. I feel bad. Like
No,
Is
it's
it the one that
okay. I
Obi-Wan
think-
cuts the arm off in?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Dr. Evazan.
Oh, that's a good choice. He's a jerk.
He's a total jerk face.
his face.
I mean, I don't even like looking at him.
Exactly. Done. He's out of here.
He's gone.
Yeah, good
He's
call.
gone.
That's a
All
good
right.
one. That's a good choice.
Now, there are a lot of great moments in Star Wars, but what Star Wars moment always makes you smile?
I think when Han and Leia are, I think they're in the hallway at this point, and she's just getting flustered, and he's just flirting with her. I really like a lot of stuff with Han and Leia. Just makes me smile. It's
This is
just
so funny because I'm knowing what she's going to say before she says it.
Yeah.
I love this.
because you know me so well. Like that's probably what's so funny.
All right. Let's see how.
Royal. She's really royal, but she's getting flustered because she likes him. And I love
Yes. Well, let's see how strong the force is with Master James. And I want you to write down Catherine's answer to the next question before she answers it, okay?
Okay, let me see. Let me get something.
It's kind of like the stars of the Clone Wars meets Newlywed Game or something like that.
or the match game.
The match game, that's what it was. The match game, yeah. How well do you know? James Arnold Taylor.
I'll give it a shot.
So James is ready. Jat's ready. So Jason, ask your next question, and Kat, please give Mr. Arnold Taylor a second to write it down. You don't go by Mr. Arnold Taylor. I just call you that for chuckles. Spirit of Yoda agrees. He's like, yeah, that's pretty funny. Yeah.
All right. Kat.
So go ahead, Jason.
All right. What moment in Star Wars always makes you sad? This would be the moment that always brings, maybe a little lump in the throat, a little tear to the eye.
All right, James Arnold Taylor in the isolation booth right now. He's writing down his answer.
Man. I'm trying to
makes
think.
you smile. Come on.
You tell me whenever you're ready.
You were talking
She's
a
got
big
her answer.
game just a couple
That's a
of minutes
clue.
ago.
The
there.
clue is that it didn't take her very long to get her answer. She's had this very...
Okay. Go ahead. I'm probably got this wrong. See, now I shouldn't have spoke up. My big fat mouth. But yeah, go ahead.
You're breaking my heart, Anakin. You're going down a path that I can't follow.
Gosh.
Like, even as I think about it, like, and someone, I think it was Becca Benjamin, someone was talking about this stuff recently. Just that scene where she actually makes the choice. She really loves him. I mean, clearly. But she still can't go there with him. And so many people will get rid of their morals, their values, all this stuff because it's going to cost them something that they really want. And she doesn't do that. And yeah, it's devastating. It's devastating for both of them.
And so what was your answer, James?
I think this kind of counts because I put ROTS Annie. That was what I was thinking was let her go, Anakin. Let her go. And that's more of the moment I was thinking, but yeah.
You're in the neighborhood.
You were in a couple minutes.
Funny, thinking about it from our two characters' perspectives, it's the same essential thing that has happened, but it's from the perspective of our two characters.
That's
so he was
good, though.
All right. We'll give you one more shot at this, James.
Okay.
All right. Last question. If there was another Star Wars movie to be made, and you were cast in it, and it was directed by none other than George Lucas, the maker himself, what would you like to hear George say to you after he yells, "Cut," on your last scene?
It's really hard not to try to be funny here, but
I know I'm being
such
funny.
a cool thing that I'm like, oh my gosh, what if that really happened? That would be the most amazing thing ever. I think I
wrote mine down. Go ahead.
Okay. I think I would like him to say, it was so great to get the old gang back, and I'm so glad you were a part of it.
Wow, that is
pretty close.
Nice.
I put, that's great. That's great.
Every once in a while we stumble across an answer that we go, that's the best answer that anyone's ever given to that question, and you just won the prize for that question, because you're right. A lot of people, they think, oh, that's crazy, that would never happen, and they come up with some quip. We get a lot of faster, more intense, but that was really thoughtful, and it's great, and it's just so indicative of you as a person, Kat, and so grateful for you to be dropping by and doing, as Jimmy has been saying, the victory lap, the Clone Wars victory lap here on Rebel Force Radio, and it's awesome to have you. And James, thank you so much for putting that holocron call out to her.
Well,
I knew she wouldn't disappoint.
Yeah, well, thank you. He usually can get me out of my little, my little pod. But I also want to say thank you. I know we've already done a couple things as a cast, but again, just to Ashley and Sam and Dee and Tom, and like James was talking about earlier, we talked a lot about our Obi-Wan, Anakin, Padme Trinity, but just the whole cast and boy, talking about a character arc. I mean, Ahsoka, like, wow, it was amazing, and even just to be a part of this new, this old but new Star Wars story has just been like, wow, pinch me. I think the only thing that could probably be better was the previous scenario of working on an on-camera movie with George Lucas directing me and telling me I was great.
Well, we're going to tell you right now, you're great. You're both great, and this final season and the whole series is one of the finest chapters of Star Wars storytelling, and probably one of the greatest animated projects that has ever been seen, I think, on any platform. And it's been on 3. This thing has been on 3 major platforms. That's pretty awesome.
And then 4 if you count Netflix.
Right, there you go. Netflix as well. So awesome. And whether it's Star Wars or not, anytime you all have anything you want to come on and talk to us and reach our Rebel Force Radio listeners, we would always be the door is always open to both of you.
Wow, thank you so much. Yeah, I can't tell you how many times. Just this last week, somebody was like, I was just listening to you. I was just watching you on Rebel Force Radio. It's always a pleasure because the fans here are just wonderful as well, as so are both of you.
Oh.
Yeah, thank you guys for being with us from the beginning. And one of my favorite photos still is from the purple carpet in Long Beach, where you're interviewing me.
Wow, that brings back memories. The
blue carpet, I'm wearing a purple dress.
Yeah. Oh, you look fantastic. And you can see that video on the RFR YouTube channel. Woo-hoo. And it's one of our more popular videos. I wonder why. No, you looked great that day. And that was a wonderful experience. And there's been so many, of course. You were a cast member on our Smuggler's Gambit audio series that we did, our live radio dramas we did.
One of my other favorite things, like, let's do more.
Hey, we're still kicking around ideas, so you never know if we might need to get the gang back together for something cool like that. I certainly would be on board with that 1,000%. So you guys are the best. You're members of the Star Wars family, and what your contributions to Star Wars are going to last forever. You're a very important part of the franchise history, and very important to us as fans.
Well, thank you so much.
May the Force be with you.
And you.
Yes.
Thank you.
May the Force be with you.
Take care.
Always.